Welcome on into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and this morning, I am still trying to wake up. I'm trying to manifest some wake-up energy here with the yellow lights behind me, maybe a little bit of sun, some bright beach teal kind of color here. Just trying to manifest that energy, because outside all morning, it has been dark and gloomy, and a thunderstorm is just beginning to roll on in as I see the ground start to turn wet. So, with that, let's keep the good vibes going, at least for a little bit here, starting off with thanking the members. Look at these guys. The Roll 0707, Jay Berg, and Robbie D. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel, and you can too for just 99 cents. I appreciate it so very much. It really is humbling to see that. So, you guys are the best there ever was. And with that, my wide receivers video has already come out. You can find all of these rankings, this week's rankings, up on the website. Every week you can find them up there. www.theFFForge.com. There's links down in the description to each of the positions, and those links will all be workable this evening at some point on Wednesday, September 18th. So that's when I put them all up, once I'm done recording, editing videos, etc. And then don't forget that rankings change throughout the week, and you can see them. They change right up live on the website as I change them, but you can also come and see them live here on YouTube with me 3 times between now and Sunday's kickoff. So starting Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time PM. You can find me here on YouTube prior to Thursday night kickoff, of course. And then Saturday, there's no football, but there is me. 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well, and that's a little bit more of a free form. Got a lot of trade questions last week during that time period, so come visit us. I was up for about 3 hours. It was very busy last Saturday, so hope to continue that trend. And then Sunday morning, 2 hours prior to kickoff, I'm also here live on YouTube for all of your start-sit questions. And of course, my rankings are up on the screen for the entirety of all of those sessions, my most recent rankings. So with that being said, wide receiver video already out. You can go see that. Let's recap how I did last week with my fades and my loves, or loves and fades. No different than starts and sits. I think you can figure out which one's a start, which one's a sit based on the names. So how did I do for my loves? I did excellent. James Conner and J.K. Dobbins were the 2 running backs that I loved last week. Gave you the running back 6 and the running back 5 there as guys who maybe weren't always going to be started, but hopefully you started them because I loved them. On the other side, we got the fades. I went 0 for 2 here, a little less dire of a circumstance. So for David Montgomery, I did talk about the path to him being successful is just basically running a touchdown in, because he's still going to get this little baseline floor of work. But in that matchup, I did not expect him to be very efficient. He was not very efficient, but he got the touchdown, ended up as running back 13, so I got that wrong. And then for Austin Ekeler, here I really did get it wrong in terms of just the game plan, the expectation of the usage. Finishes as running back 25, so that's great in terms of my preseason rankings, but it was a closer game than I had expected between Washington and the New York Giants, and this is why I explained to you the reasoning behind your start-sit questions, the reasoning behind some of my rankings and my loves and fades, especially because then you can say, hey, you know what, I think that the Giants and Washington are basically on equal playing field, not that Washington is somewhat significantly better. So therefore, whatever you said, I'm not going to listen to, because your argument is invalid. That would have worked in favor of the few out there who might have thought about playing Austin Ekeler. That's going to bring us on to my Week 3 rankings. And the first tier, we'll go through these in tiers, as always. As a reminder as well, for any of those new who were not here for rankings last season, starting next week, hopefully, at least, you will see expected ranges, projections I will start to do once we've gotten those 3 data sets for these players. That'll help, and those projections will give you an idea of where the players will probably finish about 66% of the time. They have finished within those that set of projections that I will give you. So this week, my Tier 1 running backs, Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, and James Cook. I don't think I have to explain too much why these guys, maybe James Cook, how does he make it in here? It has to do with the matchup and how he's performed and the fact that I continue to expect that usage to be there. And if we can throw some more touchdowns in there, all the better. That was really the main concern in the offseason would be, will those touchdowns be there? So far they have. That's going to bring us on to my second tier of running backs here, which is, this could have all been 1 through 11, could have been one tier. I made a little bit of a break off here, starting with Jonathan Taylor at my running back 5, going all the way down to running back 11. And so the tier break off here really comes Jonathan Taylor against Chicago. It is a tougher matchup. I do, anticipate Indianapolis still being able to run the ball a lot, and I think that the talent of Jonathan Taylor and the distraction of having a rushing quarterback will help them to loosen up the Chicago defense, and at least a couple times in the game, find a seam to go break through as the game wears along. That's what I'm betting on here. But it is a tougher matchup, one of those where he might be inefficient for a lot of it. Jahmyr Gibbs going up against Arizona, obvious upside there. Jordan Mason, Rams, obvious upside there. Alvin Kamara, Philly, obvious upside. Derrick Henry, Dallas, like that upside. Dallas really struggles against the run. This would be the week Baltimore needs a win. This is the week to lean into that run. Do not, your playoffs are not a sure thing anymore, Baltimore. So, no saving Derrick Henry in this type of matchup. We could see a heavier than average workload from Derrick Henry, I think, this week compared to what they want to do and what the most of the season will probably look like. Devon Achane going up against Seattle. I'm expecting a heavy rushing game plan from both sides of the ball here. That will matter for some of my other rankings on the other side of the ball. But for Devon Achane, also we saw he gets targeted a lot from Skylar Thompson. We also saw previously years ago Skylar Thompson targeted running backs heavily. So whether or not Raheem Mostert plays, I'm still at the same spot here for Devon Achane. I'm not lowering him because Raheem Mostert's there, and I'm not raising him because Raheem Mostert's not there, because I am ranking Raheem Mostert at this point in time. And then Josh Jacobs going up against Tennessee. This is just last week. Somebody asked me, is Josh Jacobs better or not with Jordan Love out? And I said, on an individual game basis, he has a higher ceiling, but he has a lower floor. He's more boom or bust. And so across the season, I think that his value is across many, many games, the more this is true, his value is lower than it was with Jordan Love. Just because less consistent, less opportunity for touchdowns, easier to stop for defenses, more matchup prone. Just because the offense is much less, more predictable, much less one-dimensional. But that one dimension can be great, and I don't know what to expect here against Tennessee exactly, so I think that there's a solid chance for Josh Jacobs to have another big game. And, I'm not sitting him, that's for sure, even though I'm not overly excited about that matchup either. He's very borderline, could have been in this next tier, which runs from my running back 12 through my running back 20 there in Zamir White. So at running back 12, we've got Travis Etienne, followed by James Conner, Rachaad White, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Kyren Williams, Ramondre Stevenson, Brian Robinson Jr., and Zamir White. Travis Etienne going up against Buffalo. Semi-excited about that, but it's tough to get too excited about Travis Etienne at the same time. He's a bit boom or bust. Which games will he go off? Who knows? James Conner going up against Detroit. Less optimistic about him this week in this matchup. Very tough matchup against Detroit. Why am I not I'm expecting him to be inefficient. And so the reason that I'm less down on him than I was David Montgomery last week, of course, is the fact that, he doesn't have a Jahmyr Gibbs opposite of him to stink. He's a good receiving back himself. So he's the guy who's going to potentially not only get more opportunities, a little bit higher of a floor than David Montgomery last week, but also he has that possible receiving upside to counter this Detroit rushing defense in a different way. Rachaad White going up against Denver. Injury news throughout the week will potentially impact his ranking, so we'll keep an eye on where his injury is at. David Montgomery, much more optimistic this week, going up against Arizona. It's that simple. Tony Pollard going up against Green Bay. Fairly optimistic about this. It's going to be a tough one for the Packers to try and run a similar game plan. I don't really think that's a game plan that you can run out there each and every week. and definitely not against every opponent. At least not to the same amount of success. There is an argument here, or a thought process here, conspiracy theory, no, that maybe that's why they stopped that exact game plan at halftime, to keep some of the tricks in the bag, keep some of their secrets for that game plan hidden, so that way they can actually extend the lifetime of that game plan, because they still have all the little alterations, all the little things that would force a defense to screw up, and then a big play happens, could still be in the bag there. So that is something optimistic, I think, for the Green Bay sideline, because of the Green Bay side of this, because of how efficient they were with it. They didn't even have to bring all the little variables that I'm sure that they had prepared. That being said, Tennessee is a pretty solid defense. Green Bay struggles against the run. Tyjae Spears may be banged up. I would try to play Tony Pollard if he's on my roster. There's zero doubt about that. Kyren Williams, another guy who you're probably playing, going up against San Francisco. I'm just not incredibly optimistic about this Los Angeles Rams offense. Now, could Sean McVay scheme up something similar to what we just saw Matt LaFleur scheme up, just in terms of, not necessarily similar in plan, maybe, but just similar because of the fact that he is a great coach? That is possible. He is a very good coach. Ramondre Stevenson going up against the New York Jets. They've struggled against the run. Brian Robinson Jr. going up against Cincinnati, probably one of the worst run defenses in the league. I would be more optimistic about this, but, there is a cap to the ceiling for Brian Robinson, it would seem, especially while Washington struggles to take a lead, hold on to a lead in games. Once this offense gets things together, then Brian Robinson in a good matchup will be a smash play, but I guess we'll have to wait for that. Still a good play. And Zamir White going up against Carolina, still a very good play. This is my second love of the week. I would have been more stoked for this if Bryce Young were still at quarterback. We're still the quarterback for the Panthers. Nonetheless, they're the second worst run defense, and although part of that is volume related, which has to do with that Carolina's, inefficiency on offense, giving the ball back to other offenses all game, and the other offense not having to feel like they have to score immediately and a lot. They just, keep running the ball. But a lot of it is talent related too. The Carolina defense is not very good. It's been gutted over the last year and a half. So I'm still excited for the bounce back game for Zamir White this week. Still putting him on the love list. I'm happy to try to get him into my lineup if I can this week. And I know it's not going to feel good for you Zamir White owners, but you invested in him. This is the week to give him a shot, if there was ever a week. That's going to bring us on to the final tier that we're going to look at. Now, if you want to see more, of course, I have some 50 odd or more, don't recall exactly, running backs ranked here, and you can see them all up on the website, and you can see more of them when you come visit me live, but just bringing through the top tiers of running back here, and I actually do have a couple of deeper loves that are just below this that I will talk about, so 2 more players beyond this. This final tier goes from my running back 21 down to running back 26. Zach Moss at running back 21, followed by Zach Charbonnet, Jerome Ford, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, and Raheem Mostert. So Zach Moss going up against Washington. Obviously, that sounds like a fantastic matchup, but teams have been attacking Washington through the air more so than on the ground. So I'm not as excited as I want to be for this matchup. Zach Charbonnet going up against Miami. Once again, talked about it a little bit earlier. I expect both teams to attack the other team through the ground for different reasons, but I expect that to be the game plans. Now, Zach Charbonnet, first of all, assuming that he is the starting running back. Of course, this changes if Kenneth Walker becomes healthy and is playing, but the expectation right now is that he will not be available. Zach Charbonnet is somebody who I've not been a believer in terms of his talent at running back since draft season, but still going to be in a situation here where you can get a lot of volume, and that is worth a lot. Going up against Miami, they have struggled against the run, and he can catch the ball. They did utilize that asset a little bit last week to some success, so that's where he lands. Jerome Ford not too far behind that. Also, I'm optimistic about Zach Moss, Zach Charbonnet, Jerome Ford here. Jerome Ford going up against the New York Giants. Obviously one of the weeks to be optimistic about that situation. Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones, both opposite sides of the ball. Houston playing against Minnesota this weekend. So these are my two fades. I think that this game could be surprisingly low scoring compared to what you might think initially when you think of these two teams. And I think that Minnesota could even upset Houston, similar to how they just upset the San Francisco 49ers. Houston comes from the same coaching tree, the Shanahan system, as, of course, San Francisco and Coach Shanahan. So that is the concern here, is does this defense have this offense's number? History says that they do. Minnesota's been very, very good against this tree overall and has given them struggles. And on top of that, Houston has allowed the third least points to the running back position, and Minnesota has allowed the eighth least points to the running back position. So I'm looking for, I'm just not expecting great things from the running backs in this game. And that's brings us on to running back 26 here, Raheem Mostert, who may or may not be healthy going up against Seattle. Once again, I expect, if he's healthy, that Miami is going to want to run the ball a lot, and we also know that they like to pass the ball to the running back position quite a bit. Skylar Thompson does, not the system necessarily, or not the coach. So that brings us to my two deeper loves of the week. We'll go back up top there for the rankings. My first deeper love is DeAndre Swift. Both Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs each ran for over 150 yards against the Indianapolis Colts front seven. Chicago needs to focus on establishing the run in order to help their quarterback just put him in a better position, take a little bit off of his shoulders, and this is the matchup to try that, as I just stated. Bonus points for Khalil Herbert here in DFS. I think there's an argument that Khalil Herbert could end up taking over as the lead running back of this offense as the season goes along. And so with that, who knows? Maybe it's as soon as this week. But for now, it is DeAndre Swift that I'm going to say is that guy for now. Javonte Williams is the other deeper love, bonus love content here. Surprisingly, Tampa Bay has allowed the fourth most points to running backs. Teams still respect them up the gut. That's not the issue. However, they have struggled against the pass to running backs very mightily so far in the season. And wouldn't you know it, Javonte Williams has been at his best as a receiving back. This is a recipe for success for Javonte this week. So if you don't have one of these elite running back groups, you went a little thin at running back, you're maybe banking on DeAndre Swift, maybe banking on Javonte Williams, or making some sort of call to start somebody over them. This is a week where I think you could give them one last chance to help prove that maybe maybe when the matchup is right, you could rely on them. That is it for my running back rankings. Quarterback and tight end rankings will come out tomorrow morning, Thursday morning. And I hope to see you live. And I hope that, whatever you disagree with, agree with, let me know in the comments and we'll figure it out. Sometimes there are arguments that you can make to put these guys in different spots in the rankings. So sometimes I'll just say, that's a very valid argument and I don't disagree with it. So take care, guys. I'll see you soon.